Bilen, I was trying to do a clean intro. Gem's not here. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Hello and welcome to My Turn podcast. As you can hear, Gem isn't here. So I'm like doing the hosting thing. So hi, I'm Erim, the young one.
Hi, I'm Bilen, the middle one, or the old one for today because Gem's not here. And we'll be doing random baby noises to imitate when Gem would be likely to interrupt our talking.
Who does better baby noises though? Your turn, go. That sounds like...
That wasn't a very good one. I did best ones
like
earlier.
A squirrel eating like a Scotch bonnet. No way. I'm trying to meow now.
I mean, babies are kind of like people kittens, so...
People kittens?
Yeah, so they're kind of a bit like...
That's a much better way of describing a baby.
People kittens.
People kittens. I like that. It makes them sound cute rather than evil.
Yeah, that's true.
Little shitbags. Well, today I'm going to be talking about Rome 2 Total War, which I've really been getting back into my Total War strategy game, so this is really good fun for me. And what are you going to be talking about?
I'll be talking about Power Grid.
Do we know what Gem... Oh, sorry,
a board game. Gem was talking about something that she told us, but we weren't listening. So
yeah. She does talk a lot though, doesn't she? It's like, I think we're going to have a really civilized podcast again.
Well, not that civilized, but probably shorter.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll kick off with Rome 2 Total War. So, as we all know, I'm a massive Rome... No, sorry, I'm not a massive Rome fan. I'm a massive Total War fan. So it's come out on the Mac, I think, a few years ago. It was originally released in 2013. The game was developed by the Creative Assembly and published by Sega.
So if it came out in 2013, how come you're only just playing it now?
Because when I first tried it, I didn't enjoy it that much.
Ah, so you have played it before, but now you're really getting into it.
Well, this is the thing. Sometimes I pick up a game and I'm not really that invested in it, but I just sometimes just feel like I better give it a second chance and actually learn to play it properly. This is one of the problems, actually. I found it a bit hard to like just get into it and just play it straight away. There's quite a learning curve when getting into it.
More so than the original Total War, because I remember playing that one once for 7.5 hours and then deciding never to play it again because I thought I'd get addicted.
Wait, which one? Shogun or Medieval?
I thought it was Rome Total War. Wasn't that the first one we had?
No, we had Medieval before that.
Oh, maybe it was Medieval Total War.
The one that's like Risk.
Yes, a bit like Risk.
Yeah. It's a lot more complex than that. Now they've like added in so many more things. Obviously, there was always things like diplomacy, but you've got a lot more like kind of mechanics in there as well, like political beliefs. You've actually got factions within your faction, if that makes sense. So you'll have different houses within Rome, and they'll be competing for power in politics.
So how do we actually play this game?
Well,
for those who haven't played any of the Total War franchise.
So, okay, basically, Total War is a strategy game that's split into two parts. One is kind of like a Risk style like campaign map where you command like your generals and move them around to attack different people. You build buildings, you develop agents to like, poison wells or murder people or like bring public order to certain places where you're struggling. And then the other part of it is a real-time strategy game where you actually battle, and the battles are incredible. They've all like Total War has always been about the epic proportions of like having thousands of people killing each other, but Rome really has like taken it to another level in that it looks so good now. It almost looks like you're watching a film. Whereas before, a lot of like the animations and stuff were a bit kind of rinse and repeat. It really feels a lot more organic in the way that units actually interact with each other. And if you zoom in, you actually, it's not just people going making thrusting movements with a sword. They're actually like, I think it's I can't think of what it's called. Like not CGI'd. You know when the people put on the outfits?
Motion capture.
Yes, I think they're actually motion captured like interactions between people. So you'll see them like knock each other over or like stun someone with the shield and then like stab them in the chest and stuff.
Do they also have different facial expressions? Because in the other one they never had facial expressions. They were just hitting each other.
All their armor is different as well. I mean, like you'll have like the general kind of thing that they'd wear. So for example, Principes will wear a particular type of color of armor, but like they'll have different cloaks, different emblems, different helmets. So you get like kind of a individual in a group of people that looks really, really good and really organic.
So it looks like an actual army of people rather than
rather than just a rinse and repeat. It's this guy again and again and again and again.
Yeah, copy pasted. Cool.
No, it's really, really good. So, like I said before, like one of the big improvements is definitely the graphics from earlier games that I've played. I mean, if you just look at the screen here.
Yep, everyone who's listening to our podcast, if you look at your screen, it should be
if you just look at
like displaying precisely what we're looking at right now, because that's definitely how podcasts work.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, compare it to what you experienced of the original Rome and look at it now. It actually looks really, really good, I think.
I can confirm that it looks prettier than it did 10 years ago.
It looks prettier. Yeah, and also siege battles are a lot better. So now when you're like attacking cities and stuff, whereas before the AI was a bit rubbish, they just got confused by a city. Now they actually, know how to use walls and know how to attack you rather than just like standing in a corner and doing nothing.
They know how to use walls,
yeah.
As in you can't just walk through them.
Well, no. Before, like AIs would just get stuck on the wall.
So they know they have to go around the wall
and get down. Yeah, and like it's not so easy to just like outfox the AI with something really stupid like a bug that they've obviously not ironed out in the game. But yeah, they've put a lot more thought into it. So even when you're like doing all your strategies and stuff, the AI are a lot more reactive to it now.
So what platforms is this available on?
So it's on PC and also on Mac. I don't think it's on anything else. No, it wouldn't be on any consoles.
And you're playing it on Mac?
I am playing it on Mac, and it's actually really good. I've not noticed any issues with it so far. I know, like, when this originally came out, there was a lot of bugs around it, but no, nothing too substantial. Other than I found it really funny the other day. I was playing as the British. No, it wasn't the British. It was the Egyptians. They've got
easily confused, Aaron.
Well, it's because they have similar chariot units.
Okay.
And as I was charging into people, like I swear, one of my chariots became like a spring. It was just bouncing backwards and forwards into these people. Looks quite funny. So that's the only real glitches I've noticed of it so far, which is quite
elastic chariots.
Elastic chariots, yeah, very bouncy. Yeah. So also the other real appeal of this game is actually playing historic battles. All the other Total Wars that I've played so far have got quite a collection of historical battles, but one of the things that really annoys me of this one is you get a load of them, but a lot of them are DLC that you have to pay for. So it'll be like Battle of Teutoburg Forest or something like that, but then you then have to buy that battle, which is a bit of a shame.
Are they pricey?
I think they're not. I don't think they're too much now. I didn't really look into it too much because I was like, I don't really want to pay for any extra, when I've only got like 3 historical battles that I can play or something like that, when there's like quite a few that are quite interesting. But yeah, other things as well, you're missing out some of the real like good factions of the original Rome. You're right there. Of the original Rome Total War. So things like Spartans as well, you now have to buy like the Greek expansion pack, which is really annoying because I love Spartans.
This probably, they need to make more money because they've spent more money on all the motion capture and all that, and making the graphics really good.
Yeah, but like they didn't do it before and they had expansions.
Did you not have to pay for the expansions before?
No, you had to pay for the expansions, but like factions that are actually in the game, all you had to do to unlock them was to take over them in the campaign map, whereas now you have to buy the extra bit. So... which was good. That was a good incentive, actually, to complete the game, because as you went along, you'd conquer new factions, you'd get them all their units. So I think originally you'd only have like Rome and a few of the barbarian factions, and I've always been a massive fan of Carthage. So you actually had to play as Rome and take over Carthage to unlock them, and then you could play as them. But whereas with this, yeah, you don't get all that fun stuff, which upsets me.
Oh, that's a shame.
I know. And also, Carthage are rubbish in this game.
No elephants.
No, they have, but elephants are really, like, they just die.
Oh, well, I mean, like, elephants do die, but you'd expect them to be a bit more hardy.
Yeah, but, like, they were proper tanky in the original game. Like, no matter what you did, they were just like, no. But now if you, like, throw a few javelins at them, they get really scared. So I guess it's more realistic in that sense, and, like, you have to be a bit more tactical with using elephants rather than just running them into people.
Can you use flaming pigs like they did actually in historical
I've not
battles?
come across flaming pigs. You used to.
Oh.
In the original Rome Total War, you used to be able to do that. You had dogs and pigs. I've used dogs so far, but I've not come across pigs yet. But then I'm still quite early on in the campaign, like 109 BC. So I think after a certain time as well, like the units of Rome change. And they, instead of being like Triarii and Principe and Hastati, they become like Legionary Cohort and things like that. So I've got all that to look forward to. I think the unit roster does change, but I haven't come across pigs. So we shall see.
Oh, hopefully there are pigs.
I love pigs. They're great fun.
Even though it's kind of mean. They used to set pigs on fire to scare the elephants.
Yeah, but they're not real pigs.
I know these are digital pigs, but yeah. Back in the day, they were real pigs.
Digital pigs matter. But yeah, overall, I think it's a really, really good game. It's a massive improvement on things before. And I was quite put off by what I thought at first was quite like arcadey style battles, because one of the other things as well that I didn't mention in sieges, if you're defending, you have to defend victory points rather than the entire city. So I strategically placed my men at one point like to create a box around enemy units.
Yeah,
they took over a victory point, and then a timer started counting down, and I was like, oh. So without them killing a single unit, they managed to defeat me by taking one like victory point in the middle of the city. And I was like, wow.
Sounds like you didn't read the instructions very well.
No, I didn't. But this is the thing, like, there were other victory points to be taken, but obviously this was the main one, and it's just like it took away from the idea of like trying to actually get everyone out of the city and kill everyone in the city and take it over properly. It was just send my troops here and make sure they don't come into this box, and then we win. Even though I would have like quite easily have actually beaten them, so it was a shame. But other than that, yeah, no, it's really, really good. Graphics are obviously 100 times better. And like I said, like watching people actually going up close and seeing them fight with each other is fantastic. Very, very good. 8 out of 10. Good music too.
I was going to do the so that fake Gem could ask you what score would it would be. But you already did it.
Fake Gem. 8 out of 10. I think very good. I'm really excited because they've recently released Warhammer Total War also on Mac. And I used to be a massive Warhammer buff.
Yeah, I've been speaking to people who've played the Warhammer version, and they said it's really good.
Really?
Yeah.
Which one? The first or second one? Because there's two now.
I think the first one was preferred because I think you get more with it.
Yeah.
Like, you get to play as more different armies, but I think the second one's actually better in terms of gameplay.
Oh, I'm so excited. Yeah. It's been a long time coming for Mac. But I'm glad it's finally here. So yeah, next paycheck, I think I'll get that. All right, cool. Your turn.
Okay, so I'm going to be talking about Power Grid.
Power Grid.
Which is based on a game by Freedom and Freezer.
Freedom and Freezer.
I think I've got that right. I don't actually know because I don't speak German.
Yeah.
Which was called Funkenschlag.
Funkenschlag?
Which is a really cool title. It just means sparks, but...
Sounds very German.
Yeah, it is German. He's German, and he liked to name all of his names with something beginning with F, probably because his first and surnames both begin with F. And Funkenschlag, sparks, is related to the concept of the game.
Yeah.
So this is a board game.
Yeah.
And the aim of the game is to power cities with generators.
Okay.
So you have... a world map, or well, it's not actually a world map. There's on my version we have a map of Europe, and a map of North America, and the map is divided into 5 or 6 sections. And depending on how many people are playing, is how many different sections are actually available, and you can choose which ones you want to play in. So there's actually a lot of variability straight away of which map you're playing on. You can play with the same people over and over again and play on slightly different maps using slightly different regions of the overall map. And within each map region there are 7 cities, and you build generators in cities in order to power them, but you also need to build power plants. And you need to have enough energy resources in order to power the power plants, in order to generate electricity to power your cities, to generate wealth, which then goes into building more generators and buying more power plants. And it's got a really great rubber banding mechanism whereby... Rubber banding.
What's that mean?
So rubber banding is a concept... That was a perfect gem moment. I was like, what's rubber banding?
What's rubber banding?
Rubber banding is when players get ahead in the game or fall far behind, where the actual mechanics of gameplay are designed to pull everyone closer together. So it's really difficult to run away with the game or to like just be left for dead. And the rubber banding in this, there's multiple factors to how it rubber bands, and one of them is the turn order. So the player with the fewest generators always goes first in building new generators, and they always go last in purchasing new power plants. Because the way power plants are purchased is you have an auction. And it's good to go last because then you have fewer people to compete against, which means you can just bid really low and no one's contesting it, so you win. Whereas if you go at the start and you're playing like a 6-player game, it's like, oh, that's a really good power plant. Everyone's bidding for it, and you end up playing twice as much as it would otherwise cost. So that allows people who've fallen really far behind to get cheaper power plants. They also get to buy resources first, and the cost of resources is based on the number left in the pool.
What are the different resources then?
The resources they have are coal, gas, oil, and nuclear. Or uranium.
It's a bit like Settlers of Catan, where you have to use like different resources to create different buildings. Then.
No. All of the generators and the power plants are purchased with electro, which is the currency, and so the resources are also purchased with electro. The resources, different power plants require different resources in order to power a certain number of cities. At the start of the game, you'll have a power plant that takes 3 coal to power 1 city, say. But then as the game goes on, the power plants get better. So you might get one that takes 1 coal to power 5 cities. But then you also get more power plants which use the clean or more developed resources. So you start off with a lot of power plants that use coal, then more of them come through that use gas and oil, and then you get the nuclear ones. But you also get some green energy plants which require no resources, but still power cities. And those are great to get, but they're always really hotly contested because once you
everyone
get those,
wants them, I guess.
they stay in your power plant group, and you paid much less in terms of resources. You can also only have up to 3 power plants in your hand. So once you get a 4th one, you pick which one to throw away. And you can't just stockpile all the resources if you're like the first player to buy resources and screw everyone else over, because you can only buy as much as is in the supply. Once the supplies run out, that's it. Nothing. You can only store as much as twice as many as it requires to power your power plants. So you can't totally screw over players. There's a nice rubber banding to make sure that people who are falling behind get back into it.
And is it realistic if you are far behind, you can still come back and win the game quite late game?
And the game's in 3 phases. So each city actually has 3 sections where you can build a generator. But you can only start in the first section to begin with. Once someone's built a generator in a city, no one else can build a generator in that city. And in order to build a generator, you need to be able to not only pay for the purchase price of a generator in a new city, you also need to pay for the connection cost.
Yeah.
So, like, each city is connected to other cities by a line which indicates how much it costs. And you're allowed to take any route. You don't have to have neighbouring cities. You can, like, hop between cities. I mean, you can do as many hops as you like, as long as you can pay the connection cost and then also pay for the generator. You can build a generator in a new city.
Yeah.
But then when stage 2 comes about, a second slot opens up in each city, slightly more expensive to build a generator, but it means that people who haven't already got a generator in that city can get a generator in the city. And then there's a third slot as well in stage 3, which is when, like, all the really powerful power plants come out. Which means that if you've been, like, encircled by people and you can't do the connection costs, as soon as it moves to stage 2, it's like, oh, haha, I'm right next to all of these power plants, which are cheap, and the people who are already there, they can't use them. So more for me.
Okay.
And the way the map works, where you've got different sections, the number of map sections you play in is, I think, like 2 more than the number of players there are.
Yeah.
So there's always loads of cities. Anyway.
So you never get fully trapped in anywhere then?
You sometimes, like, if there's like a group of 3 people ganging up on one person,
that's mean.
That one person might get trapped in, but then, like I say, once the stage changes, they get to expand out, and because they're going first, building generators first, they'll get in there before anyone else can. So it's really good in that way.
How do the stages develop then? Like, is it a particular amount of cards that get played before it becomes the next phase?
So the first phase is the beginning of the game, and it goes right up to when someone builds their nth generator, where that number is determined by the number of players. So I think if you play a 2-player game, it's seven generators, and then it moves to phase 2. And then the third one, there's like a special phase 3 card, which is in the power plant deck. So after you've seen a certain number of power plants go through the auction process, you move into phase 3. It's technically possible to go into phase 3 without a phase 2, but it's quite rare for that to happen. And like in each of the turns, there's 5 bits of actions that you can do. You first bid on your power plant. You then purchase resources. You then build any additional generators you want. You then power your generators. And then you restock resources. And it's very methodical. It's once you know the rules, it's really easy. So you can learn how to play this game in one playthrough.
Okay. And how do you ultimately win then? Is there like a certain amount of victory points that you need to get to achieve victory?
So the aim of the game is to power as many cities as possible. However, the point which determines when the game ends is when someone builds a generator, like an nth generator for some large number, for like 18th generator, then it plays through one more round, and whoever powers the most after that, which isn't the person necessarily with the most generators, it's just the person who can power the most, they win.
Okay.
So it's actually quite possible for someone to get to like 18 generators and then realise actually they don't have enough money to power more than about 12. And then someone who's only got 13 generators might have loads of money for resources, and they'll be able to power theirs and they'll win the game. So sometimes you get people like hovering around the 17 generator mark, or like one less than the number to trigger the end game, until they've got the most powerful power plant. And then they'll buy as many generators as they can power and try and win it that way.
Okay, so obviously different tactics for different people.
Yep.
So how did you come across this game?
So we have a board game club at work on Tuesdays, and I first played that there with some friends from work. We played that a few times. I quite enjoyed it, and then decided I needed a new game to buy, and was looking around. So actually, Power Grid, that's quite good. That's an easy one to get into, and I've played that for quite a few times now. With
how
my
much
copy.
was it then?
Oh, it was quite expensive. It's like about £60.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Worth it though?
Yeah, I think it's worth it. I mean, just the number of different ways you can play it. There's 2 sides to the maps. You can play in North America or Europe, and then the number of different map variations you can play, and it plays for 2 to 6 players. There's like a special 2-player mode because it doesn't really work with 2 players, but so they have like a third neutral player whose actions are determined based on the other people's actions.
Okay.
But yeah, it's really good fun. Yeah. And we should definitely play it sometime. I've brought it around so many times when we've been supposed to have done the podcast over the summer, but then, one of you and Jem is busy or both.
Excuse me, you were away for like 2 months or something.
Yeah, no, I was doing athletics, but you knew that I was away. That's why you and Jem did the podcast on your own.
Yeah, but like, you're the reason for the delay.
No, we booked in the diary like 3 things, which
we're doing this.
Didn't do, yeah.
No, there was only 1.
2.
What was the other one?
I can't remember, but there was also one that Jem couldn't make, so it was 3.
Oh, okay. I thought you just meant me specifically.
No.
I was going to say I didn't do it. What would you rate it then?
I give it a 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10?
Yeah, very replayable, very easy to get into, and also really good fun.
Nice. Do you think it challenges for your favourite board game?
Ooh.
Top 5?
Yeah, definitely top 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now for Jem!
Hey, bros. I'm really sorry I can't be with you in person today for the recording of our podcast. However, I am going to be filming a really fun comedy film, so I'm going to be having fun all day without you two, so meh. But I thought I'd be really kind and record my little review anyway, so that you can just drop it seamlessly into the rest of the podcast. And I trust you both, so I trust that you're not going to do anything silly with my voice or, take the mick out of me or say bad things about me.
Bitch.
Because I love you both. And Bilen definitely didn't hear the last podcast when we were slagging him off. So it's fine. It's all fine. So yeah, bros, thank you very much for dropping this nice little interview neatly into the podcast. So it's my turn. And today I'm going to be talking about Shadow of the Tomb Raider. This came out on the 14th of September. I bought it on the day it came out because I love Tomb Raider. It's my favourite pretty much of all the games I've played in the last sort of 5 years. And I was really excited about the latest edition in the franchise. And this one, I think, is meant to round off the trilogy of this latest reboot of the Tomb Raider series, which started, I think, back at the end of 2013. So, what do I think of Shadow of the Tomb Raider? Well, for anyone who hasn't played the previous 2 installments, this is an action-adventure game. There's lots of fun, stealthy combat, a bit of hand-to-hand, but mostly kind of stealth and long-range weapon stuff. Then there's lots of puzzle tombs, which are really fun and get your brain going. And then there's lots of exploring the world, which is beautifully rendered in all 3 games. And my favourite bit, loads and loads and loads of climbing and grappling and hanging off of cliffs and kind of the stuff that makes your toes curl while you're playing it because it just looks so scary. So this game is more of the same. It has all of that stuff. Plus, I think some of the combat has been improved, but I'll come to that later. The kind of vague story, it's a continuation of a storyline that you get in Rise of the Tomb Raider, which is about Lara kind of chasing down this group called Trinity, who are up to no good. But the really interesting thing with this story is right at the beginning of the game, I don't want to tell you any specifics because I don't want to spoil it, but Lara does something which she herself realises very quickly contributes to all the bad stuff in a similar way to the kinds of things that Trinity does. And she does it sort of without thinking about it, but it's really interesting. So the game story is set up almost differently in that Lara isn't necessarily the out-and-out good person. She's also a kind of Western invader who's gone to an exotic part of the world and done something that maybe raises some questions. So I thought that that was a really interesting sort of into the story. And it progresses, I can't really tell you too much more about it without spoilers, but it progresses into a hidden culture, which is quite nice. So the really different thing about this game compared to the other two is that you have, a bit like in some of the Assassin's Creed games, you end up with sort of towns that you can explore, and there's people that you interact with. And during those areas, you don't have any combat. So you can pick up side missions, you can improve your weapons, you can do some exploring, you can gather resources, things like that. So that's a really different dynamic in this game to the other two, where you didn't really have that kind of area. You occasionally had moments of interaction with other characters who were friendlies, but you didn't have that kind of marketplace vibe, which is, I guess, what I'd call this. And again, like the other two games, it's not quite open world, but it's sort of a semi-pseudo open world. So you can go back and do things before progressing with the story. Say you realise you've missed out a crypt or a tomb and you want to go and solve that puzzle, you can go back and do that in any order that you like once you've unlocked the fast travel in that area. But you do have to do the story in order to unlock different areas in the map. So in that sense, it's not a true open world. But it's quite fun that you do get the ability to kind of go back and finish some of the challenges, which will reward you with skills points and sometimes equipment as well. So it's quite fun. And the general look and sounds of the game, just like the other two, is really visually impressive. Some of the Vestas are just incredible. I mean, just wow. And as I mentioned earlier, when you're climbing around some of these areas, it really does make your tummy tingle. It's really quite amazing. And I love the way that the climbing mechanics just get better and better every game, where you kind of really get that amazing sense of overhanging ledges and swinging through things and grappling up walls and stuff. It just works really nicely, and I really enjoyed that in this game. And the music is great. It's not there all the time. It's not like a constant soundtrack, but there's some nice little touches, like when you're in the marketplace in the village, there's just some nice little background beats and stuff, which is quite atmospheric and cool. And yeah, generally when there's going to be a fight going down, you know about it because the music changes, so you get like bad guy music. So that's always handy to know, especially in situations where you think, oh, I want to be a bit prepared and be a bit stealthy. In terms of the gameplay style, as I said, it's an action adventure, so there's a lot of collecting in this game, some nice little mini challenges. Some of them are a bit boring. Things like, I really hate the swan dive challenge. They had that in the last game. You just have to stand on a really high cliff edge and dive into some water really far below you. I find that really boring. For me, I enjoy challenges which are about hunting animals or finding different flowers in trees. Maybe this sounds boring to you, but I find that more enjoyable. And sort of like locating things that are hard to see. I find that quite satisfying because I really like exploring in games like this. So for me, those challenges are way more interesting than diving into some water. But in terms of the puzzles, some of the tombs, I think that what was interesting about this game is you can adjust the difficulty settings for the tombs and the puzzles independently of the difficulty settings for the combat. And this for me is brilliant because I quite like playing combat in normal, just normal. I don't want to make it any harder for myself. That's not why I play this game. But the puzzles, the idea that I can turn up the difficulty on that is really satisfying. So I really enjoyed being able to have that kind of customizability in this game, which is really cool. And sometimes, if combat is really hard, I can make it easy as well, But the puzzles, I like them to be super hard. And the puzzle tombs this time round, I've actually found them a lot easier. So it's really good to have that option to sort of turn up the difficulty. And what that does is it means Lara doesn't give you any clues. If you play it in normal mode or if you play it in the easy mode, Lara basically pretty much tells you what order to do the puzzles in with her narrative. So when you play it in difficult, you've got to kind of figure it all out yourself, which is quite satisfying, as I said. But that's if you really like puzzling, which I do. And in terms of the combat, this game goes to town on stealth combat. So there are whole sections of the game where you don't have any weapons anymore and you have to cover yourself in mud, which is a new addition this time round, and I really like that. So if you can cover yourself in mud at opportune moments, it makes you harder to detect with heat-seeking goggles, which the bad guys have now, which is really scary because they can see you when you're hiding in bushes. And so the mud helps with that. Also, you've got a bunch of new moves that you can unlock when you're playing stealthily in these moments. So you can hide on top of a tree. Then if you unlock this particular move, you can kind of tie a guy up by the throat and strangle them. It sounds really violent and horrible. It is. And do that stealthily and like tie them back up into the tree pretty much so no one finds them. Similarly, if you do stealth attacks and you're in a bush, you drag them back into the bush so no one can see the body and so enemies aren't alerted. There's also some really great poisons you can use. So you can poison, sounds really mean, but you can poison some of the bad guys and then they end up shooting their friends instead of you. They get confused, which is really, really mean. And then they die anyway because the poison kills them. But it's quite enjoyable if you're Lara and you've only got your bow and arrow left because all your weapons are gone. And you need to get through a whole bunch of baddies without being seen because you don't really have any hand-to-hand combat skills. So if they catch you, it's really hard to get away. And that brings me to the thing that frustrates me with this game. There is so much stealth that if you do get caught, as I said, Lara's not very good in close combat. Most of her weapons are ranged weapons. And so if you get caught, you've got a pickaxe. So you can kind of swing a pickaxe at people, but that doesn't really help you during those times in the game when you don't have your guns. And even when you do have your guns, it's really, really hard to shoot people close up because of the way the game is. And you kind of want to be able to like hit people over the head with a gun or something, but that you just can't do that. Yes, that's sort of annoying, but I guess the name of the game for a lot of this is stealth. So just be quiet, just be patient, and you'll get there. But it's really satisfying, all of that stuff. So in general, how do I feel about the game? That demanded a drink of water. Yeah, I initially found it a little bit frustrating because when you play the game, there are so many cutscenes early on, like a ridiculous amount of cutscenes where you just wonder if you're playing a game or watching a series. And I really like story-driven games, but when you can't have any impact on the story, they become frustrating and boring. So initially I just thought, oh God, they've really gone to town on telling you this very drawn-out story, and I haven't had a chance to play much game, and I've been playing it for 2 hours. So that annoyed me. It does level out slightly, but because of these little kind of villagey areas that you end up in, you find yourself listening to a lot of character dialogue in this game. And it gets to the point where you want to skip it. So I wonder if by introducing this extra level to the game, I wonder if they've missed a trick by not allowing you to have some kind of gameplay interaction with some of the dialogue or some of the choices you make when you speak to these characters. Because it's quite passive, which I think is what makes it boring at times. Other than that, though, I think that this game has some incredible twists and turns in the story. Lara really has a huge kind of character shift, again, which I can't tell you anything about because I don't want to spoil it. But there's a really amazing moment in the game where you just kind of go, whoa, Lara's become like commando or something. She really kind of changes, and it's kind of awesome and fun. But yeah, in terms of the gameplay, the puzzles, as I said, they felt a bit easier, but I turned up the hardness and then they were great again. Some of the tombs aren't as impressive as in Rise of the Tomb Raider, say, but there are a couple of really standout, memorable ones where you just walk into the tomb and go, wow, because it's such an impressive setup and landscape that's been created. And some of the puzzles are very fun and inventive and really, really satisfying to complete. So in general, I really enjoyed this game. I think that the climax is quite spectacular and really, really kind of worth persevering through. I think the sort of first third of the game lags a bit, and it's just worth keeping on with it because it really picks up as you get through the game. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it. I like it a lot. I've been hooked to it for the last 3 weeks. I've not touched anything else. So yeah, I definitely would give it a high rating still. Probably an 8.5 out of 10. Maybe not as high as Rise of the Tomb Raider, but I still think this is a really excellent game. And if you're a fan of the franchise, you won't be disappointed. It's good fun. Thanks, guys. And I hope you're having a good week doing the podcast without me. Love you both. Bye.
All right, good stuff. Well, thank you for tuning into My Turn podcast. That's a big goodbye from Jem. Bye from me. Bye. And also,
Bye from me. Bye.
take care. Bye. Okay, cool. Done. Yeah.